And we're back. I have disabled the other echo devices in my house. So now we can start interacting with this with the microphone. So and also we can type in text. So we can write stuff like Alexa, open test skill. Okay. Problem with the response. So why did that happen? Well, we didn't write anything with our skill, right? This is the JSON request that was sent to our skill. That is going to be received here as request. All right. To show you that, actually, let's introduce us to let's print it out. Print request. Save that. Let's run this again. Alexa, open test skill. Okay, so this all got sent. And we told it to print. So where did it print? That printed to the CloudWatch logs. Let's take a look at those. Okay, these are, we can't get to them from here, so the best way I know is to, let's close these. Amazon CloudWatch. Okay. All right, CloudWatch. We are going to take a look at our logs there on the left and test skill. Okay, here are the different events. Here's the first event, which was the first time when we typed in, into the simulator, Alexa open test skill. That's what ran. We can see the time that the request started. I guess that must be that's UTC. Okay, so I'm in Pacific time 5:11. This is at 01:09. Okay, but you can basically tell based on the minute and the second usually which we're talking about. Look at this, says global name response is not defined. Why does it say that? Okay, so that's the actual error that happened that caused our code to crash and why it didn't return anything. Look in here. Well, we said return response, but we never defined it. So that's what it's telling us there. Just like our, if we had written this function, this is basically if we'd let's actually do that in Python just to see that we'd get, no, let's not do that in Python, but that's exactly what would happen. If we wrote a function and we said return response and we didn't say what response was, this is exactly the error that we'd get in Python. And you can look at a little bit more detail. Look, it says line 4. So you can get all the information you need from the logs if all else fails, but there are some maybe more convenient ways to do it. Okay, now let's click on here. This is the more recent request that we made when we actually spoke Alexa open test skill. We said that we had changed the code at that point so that it would print out what the request was, right? So let's see where we can find that. Here we go. This is the request. Session, new, true, session ID, blah, blah, blah. This matches the request that was sent to the skill. So this information is getting put into this variable, basically, okay? And we say that this is JSON format, right? But Python it works naturally with JSON things as a dictionary, and so this actually comes into our skill as a dictionary. All right. Let's forget about the request, and regardless of what the request is, let's make sure we can write some sort of appropriate response. So how do we write an appropriate response? What's the format? It's some sort of JSON format. So let's take a look. Alexa, JSON response. What's the format? Request and response JSON reference. This is the Bible for creating an Alexa skill, as far as I'm concerned. We are not interested in the request right now. Let's just get some sort of valid response and see what we can do with that. Okay. Oh, look at that. Standard response to launch request or intent request example. We could look at that, but let's look at the raw response format in all of its glory. We don't care about this header. It just comes into us like this. It's going to apparently have a version. It's going to have a should end session that we need. I think that this is required. Actually, it might not be. Well, we can see what we can get away with. I think that might be required. We'll take a look. Version type string required, and it has to be 1.0. Okay, so what did I just learn from that? I learned that my response has to, I'm not going to say why, this is just required. It has to have a key in there called version, and it has to have a value of 1.0. That's it. There's all there is to it. It has to. It's telling us that that's required, and it's supposed to be a string. Okay, what else? Session attributes. So this is showing us what it looks like, and this is going to detail each of these things. Session attributes. Is it required? No, so we're going to forget about it right now. Does it have to have a response? Response object? That's kind of weird, right? Because there is a response object inside here, but it has to have a key called response. That's what it's telling us, with some sort of value. And it says it's a response object in general. An object in JSON is something in parentheses, but you know what? That's why this should be, let's call this event like it was before. No, sorry, forget about what I just did there. This is going to be some sort of object. We're going to make it empty for now. We'll see what goes in there in a second. Okay. All right. How does that jive with this? Well, there's a version, there's session attributes, and there's a response. And yeah, this is all part of the response, it looks like. Yep, so there's only three main things. Now the response object you can see is quite big. And so the next thing the documentation is going to talk about is the response object. What must it have? Anything? Apparently it doesn't have to be anything in the response. So just to confirm that our skill works in some sense, I guess we could return that, but you know what I'm going to do? Output speech. That's the thing that we make Alexa say. So let's go ahead and put something in our response object. Let's put an output speech in there, an output speech object. Okay. So let's say in here, remember in here we're going to have. Let's like break this out. Okay. Let's call this something else. We'll call this R. Okay, and let's define what R is. R is going to be a response object. What does a response object have to have? Nothing, but it has to be some sort of object. We're going to put, though, in it a output speech. And what does an output speech have in it? Well, see output speech object. It's an object, so it's going to be enclosed within curly braces. Some sort of dictionary. All right, let's take a look at what an output speech object looks like. Does it have to have a type? Yes, either plain text or SSML. We won't talk about SSML, but that's speech synthesis markup language, and it means you can make Alexa pronounce things in particular ways, and that's how my Sergeant Tabata skill makes her wait for a certain amount of time when she's saying work and now rest. She waits for a certain number of seconds in between. That's how you can make her do that. But we're just going to do plain text. Okay, so it needs to include a type, and the type that it's going to be is plain text. So let's go back into here. It's going to have a type, and plain text. So it's supposed to be capitalized. Yes, it probably doesn't matter, but I'm going to be very careful. Type looks like it can be lowercase. Okay. Does it have to have text? Yes, for plain text, there it has to have text as well. So let's include some text in there. Text. What do we want her to say? This is your test skill. Save. All right, I think I got to the end of the tree. I've now have a response object with the required field version, with the required thing that is the response object. I don't need the session attributes part. And now I've got this response object that has inside it an output speech object, which has the required fields type and text and the corresponding values. So let's save that, and let's try to interact with the skill now. Alexa, open test skill. It says this is your test skill right there. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear it. Look at our nice, beautiful response here. Version 1.0 response, output speech type, plain text, text. This is your test skill. Now, it says it has a body in there. Don't worry about that. This might look a little bit different than exactly what you wrote. That's because the Lambda function and Alexa take care of some additional things for you automatically. So, okay, so we had let's see, we had an intent, right? This is just a simple launch request, right? Because we just say open test skill. There's no intent here. If we wanted to, we could do things with these other fields, right? If we wanted her to, let's see, we can say, no, let's not do anything with that. Let's just, let's work with the different intents of our skill, right? Wasn't the intent was called test intent, right? I think that yeah, I think we're out of that. We'd have to return to the developer console to take a look at that. But I think that we said repeat a number, right? So like the number 20 and one of those three objects, and one of them was lamp, right? So I'm going to type that in there. Actually, let's forget about that. I'm going to say it and see if she hears it right. Repeat 20 and lamp. Okay, so the reason that didn't work is because I didn't preface it with saying Alexa. I think that I have to say, Alexa, ask test skill to repeat 20 and lamp, because when you are actually using a device, you can't just talk and say what you want the skill to do. You have to tell the skill what to do, or which skill it is, and you have to say the wake word. Alexa, ask test skill to repeat 20 and lamp. Okay, so she just says, this is my test skill, because I haven't put the code in there, but look at this request object. Ah, it's an intent request this time. It is a test intent, and yep, here is our custom slot with lamp, and here is our number slot with value 20. Okay, notice that, okay, so let's write in the code to detect this, okay? So one thing is we only want her to repeat these back to us if this is of type intent request and the intent is test intent. Otherwise, if it's a launch request, let's have her just do this is the test skill. Okay? So we need to write some conditions here. If request, I don't know, let's take a look at what the request object tells us. Okay? Request, this is what it looks like. You don't even have to look at the reference for this, right? Is it version that we're interested in? No, we don't care what the version is. Do we care about the session? There's nothing interesting in here. Is it context? Nope. Ah, it's in this key request here. Looks a little bit weird, but you say request, request, type, intent request. Okay, if the type is intent request. Is intent request, or let's say if it's a launch request, then this is what R is going to be. Otherwise, if it's an intent request, we should also then check if the request intent name is test intent. Okay, if request intent name is test intent, then what do we want it to do? Oh, we want it to repeat some stuff back to us. Okay, so let's get the values out of those slots. then we'll get slot, custom slot. Okay, so this is a little complicated. It's pretty deep in there. Request, intent, slots, custom slot. Slots, custom slot is, yeah, that's, no, we don't want it to, we don't want it to have the whole thing. We want it to have the value, right? We want it to save the value back to us. Element value. That's what we want to get out. Okay, so custom slot should get lamp in this case. And I'm going to copy this because there's also the number slot. And let's take a look at the number slot. The number slot, what does it have to say? Number slot, value. Yeah, so we just need to change custom slot to number slot. Okay. Then how do we repeat it back? Well, all right. What do we want to say here? In the text, instead of this is your custom skill, we wanted to repeat those things back. So let's repeat stir of number slot plus a space plus custom slot. And so she'll say 20 lamp, right? I think that'll do it. Save it. All right, I already see that I've got an error, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to try it, though. Let's say this again. Alexa, ask test skill to repeat 20 in lamp. Skills response. All right, let's see if she got it right. Custom slot is lamp again, and number slot is 20. Good, but the output is null. What happened? Well, we know that this is able to communicate with our skill. Let's see what happens in, well, we could go to the CloudWatch log, right? So one way we could do this is we can go back to our logs, and we could go to test skill, and we can look at the latest log, right? So there's syntax error, invalid, line 3, some invalid syntax. Let's take a look. Line 3, invalid syntax. Oh, there's no colon here. Okay, but another way we can do this, and this is also useful if you don't want to open up CloudWatch and you don't need it, you can copy this JSON input, copy this to the clipboard, copy, and you can bring it over here and say test. And so I can put in there, this is a test intent, and I can paste this. And just give it some sort of name that I can refer to it, because it's going to save this, okay? I can create that, and then I can click test. Failed. Details, exact same thing. Syntax error in module lambda function, something's wrong in line 3, and we could find what's going on here. If I put the colon in there, I can save it, click test. Still an issue. Line 5 has a syntax error. Let's find out what's going on. What's line 5? If, else if. Come on, what kind of noob am I? Elif, Python. Save, test. Still a problem. Stack trace, key error. It doesn't have a key called intent request. Let's take a look. What is it called? Request type is intent request. Request type. Oh. Oh, that was silly. If request type is launch request, if request type is intent request. Okay, so that was just a mistake. Test. There we go, and it's going to output speech is text, 20 lamp. All right, let's call it here. Alexa, ask text skill to repeat 30 spoon. Uh-oh. Still a problem. Let's see what happened here. Oh, look at here. All right, so custom slot, she didn't get anything, and the number slot nothing. So let's not give her something so hard this time. Let's just do 20 lamp. Ask test skill to repeat 20 lamp. I don't think we have to say Alexa because we've clicked the microphone button. Ah, there we go, 20 lamp. All right, so this is what we output. But let's see if we can get that to work again. Ask test skill to repeat 30 spoon. All right, let's see what happened here. So apparently she's not understanding 30 or the custom slot. I'm gonna say, well, what are the things I had? I said television, and so let's see if she understands when I say television. Ask test skill to repeat 30 television. Okay, she's not understanding 30. Let's say 20 television. Alexa, ask test skill to repeat 30 television. Ah, I messed up. There's gonna be. I'll ask. Let's type it in. Ask test skill to repeat 30. Let's see if there's a problem with. Yeah, she doesn't understand 30 television. Oh, maybe I have to say 30 and television. To repeat 30 and television. I think that was part of the utterance. Ah, there we go. Okay, so if I apparently my sample utterance was just had the and in there, and if there is no and, there's a problem. Okay, but this brings us to something important, right? Oh, let's see 30 and spoon. Okay, so notice spoon was not one of the custom slot values that I provided. I think that my slot values were coffee, television, and what was the first one? Lamp, yeah. So, but I said spoon here, that's not one of them, but she still recognizes it, okay? So the custom value, it's whatever she hears. The custom slot values are just suggestions for what she should listen for. They are not a guarantee of what your skill is going to get. So you can write logic in there that if it's not one of those acceptable values, then you could ask her to repeat herself, right? You could compare what the value is to one of several choices, and if it's not one of those, if it needs to be for your skill to work properly, then it depends on your skill. Then you could reprompt, right? Ask the user again. But if it, let's say that she just doesn't understand. So let's get her to not understand again. Alexa, ask test skill to repeat 30 spoon, right? So this is a problem. What was the problem? What happened? Okay, look, the custom slot, there is no value, and the number slot, the value is question mark, okay? So when you're writing these, you have to take that sort of thing into account. Really, we have to basically first say, what do we say? Custom slot, it might not even have a value. So you might say, you can put this in a try block, right? Try it. So let's have it reprompt, right? This is the simplest thing. There's lots of ways you can do this logic. Let's try the simplest. Try all this stuff. Okay? If it fails for whatever reason, then we are going to do something different. We are going to instead say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You could reprompt and be fancy. Sorry, didn't understand. But I'm not going to right now. Save. All right. So let's do that again. Copy and paste it. Okay, but if we type something correct, 45, Aquaman. We have to have an and in there, right? 45 is maybe misspelled. Let's see, maybe I shouldn't have the dash in there. Alexa, ask text skill to repeat 45 in Aquaman. Okay, so I shouldn't have had the dash in there. So that is one thing that you'll notice is sometimes when you type things, like if I just put in a number, that can screw things up. Okay, so, oh, but look at that. Actually, that was kind of interesting. Let's do that again. Notice how for she put a question mark. She understood that there was some sort of number there. It was supposed to be a number, but it wasn't a recognized number. She couldn't convert that to a number. Whereas before, when we actually get it correct, she actually has the number in there. Okay, so you're going to get different values, either a question mark or the value could be entirely missing. And when one of those things happens, we're just having a reprompt. But of course, you can check carefully with the skill logic. You have to program this all. Like, yeah, there's a lot of code to be written, but there are certain ways of organizing things to make this a lot less verbose. Okay, so let's take a look at maybe what I should do to make this a little bit simpler looking, right? Let's first of all let's get the request type. And let's save that in a variable, so we don't have to see all that. So this is refactoring the code, make it a little bit easier to read. Okay, if request type is launch request. All right, now how about this one here? Do we have to write all this every time? The only thing that changes is the text, right? So let's define this up here. And let's make this empty. Or let's make this, let's see, speech text. A variable here, speech text. No, we're not going to define this here. We're going to put this at the bottom. Speech text is initially that, and R is this, and it's whatever speech text is. And so here we can say speech text gets, this is your test skill. And let's see. Here, let's simplify this a little bit, because if we had multiple types of requests, or multiple types of intent gets this, and if the intent is test intent, then we will do all this stuff. No, we don't have to have all this, do we? Yeah, I think we do. I guess we do. We've got to get out the slots, but Well, here's one thing we could do. Maybe to make it a little bit, we could say slots gets, well, so we might want to check and see if this thing is there, because it might not be. I think if there's no slots, if that's there, if, here, actually, we want to say if slots is in that thing, then slots our variable is whatever that is. And so now we can simplify this a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit nicer. And output speech, we can now just, whatever that was. This is speech text. And here our speech text will be, sorry, I didn't understand. Cool. Now we can, since this is a little bit more manageable, now we can maybe expand this a little bit with more different types of intents. Now if we have a different type of intent, right? Well, we do have a different intent, right? We've got elif intent is Amazon.help intent, if you remember that. And we could just say no help available right now, but you should have, for a real program, sorry, no help is available because the skill can't do anything. Then we just write that, right? So it's nice to maybe extract the things we need up top here. And the thing with the slots is we put this in a try except block, but we could do the same trick we have up here. So we could say if the slot's custom slot has a value, if value is in there, then get it out. Otherwise, I don't know, given a default value. And you could do the same thing with number slot so that it's not just sorry I didn't understand, but it could be default values for both of them. All right, let's actually do it. If value in slots custom slot, then we get it out. We'll have a default value. Custom slot gets the default value of default. And custom slot, so number slot will have a default value of 10. Well, it can be default number. So she'll repeat that. But you might have some real logic in there. Our scale doesn't actually do anything right now, so I don't have a great example. So if value is in slots.number slot, then number slot gets that. And then you're going to do the speech text gets whatever it is there. Okay, so that's a little bit smarter. And what could you do if you detect that you could say else? Okay, maybe in this case you're going to change things so that she reprompts instead. All right. Let's see. Did we totally screw it up? We can easily debug that. Let's say ask guild repeat 45 in Aquaman. Oh, there's a problem. All right, let's see what was wrong. Copy this. Go back to test. Do we have? Oh, we even have a test with the syntax error line 19. Maybe we missed a colon somewhere. 19. Except we need to say what to accept perhaps, or there could be an error here. That's a possibility. Oh, we don't have an accept anymore. This doesn't belong. So, oh, because we don't have a try block anymore. So the sorry I didn't understand can't really happen. We've got default values now, right? So let's test the launch request. Okay, so launch request works fine. Oh, I guess I must have... Oh, I already put that in there. So apparently that was the test that I was running. Cool. So let's see if the Aquaman thing works. Okay, what happens if she doesn't get a second one? 45. Ah, there we go. There's the default value working. How about if she doesn't understand the first number, but she does understand Aquaman? Okay, so this apparently got a value, so we could put the logic in there that if it's, if it doesn't have it, or if the value is question mark, then we do the default number. All right, so this is all if you have a brand new session. Okay, session new is true. If I were to include in the response that, let's go back here, should end session. It's not required, but this might be something you want to do. You can do other things here. You can keep the session open. So let's keep the session open here. In this case, okay, so let's have a variable that is should end session. Output should end session. What does this look like? Should end session. Should end session. End session. And we're going to assume that it should. That's the default. End session. But, oops, actually we can leave that as a bool. But maybe in this case, Um, hmm. How about this? We're going to make them repeat both things. Okay. If custom slot is none or number slot is none, we are going to ask the user again, speech text gets, please repeat that. And then else, speech text is going to be that. Okay? So this is going to keep the session open. So take a look at what this looks like. All right, so let's make this be an error, right? She does not, no, I think she does understand this, right? So let's leave this blank. So we don't want her to understand. Please repeat that because there was no value for custom slot. So it said the custom slot got the default value of none. And so she says, please repeat that. Notice how the session is still open. This is still part of the conversation. And so the user can just say, we don't have to say the test skill thing anymore. We can just say repeat 45 and Aquaman. Oops. I'm a little confused at what just happened. Did we save this? We did. This we want to end the session after. What just happened here? Let's try this again. We have to say, let's say, I don't think we have to write the wake word in here, but I don't think we can just say repeat 45. We cannot put that up here and have it work. Oh, I think that's not our skill at all. We have to tell her that we want the test skill to, okay? And that's going to direct it to the test skill. Let's ask test skill to repeat 45, okay? Okay, so we did not write this, right? So that was just apparently a default Alexa sort of thing. She understands this. When we click this, we can do other things like, Alexa, what's the weather today? Okay, so we're working with the real like Echo Dot right now, basically the same sort of thing that it would do. Okay, so that's what this was coming from. But if we tell her the test skill, because ask test skill to repeat 45, then it goes to our skill. Ah. Okay, but let's see. New is true, and the session, is it still open? No, response. Should end session. True. Oh, wait. Okay. So that ended the session, and that's why when we said just repeat 45, it didn't work, right? Because we know that just saying repeat this and that doesn't work. We have to say test skill, unless the session is still open. Okay, so we closed the session there, but we should have kept it open. So end session is true. What we wanted to happen is if we say please repeat that, end session is false. That's what I meant to do. Save that. Okay, so let's try that again. We don't want it to end the session. Okay, she asks us to repeat. The session is still open. So now the user does not have to say ask test skill. They can just say repeat 45 and Aquaman. Right. So it's not a new session anymore. It was continued from before, and we get the stuff. And now the session is closed because that was what we set the default to be. All right, and finally we can get to the complicated part of the logic is if one of them is none. Let's say, how do we want to do this? So if value in slots, if it's not in slots, let's see. How about this? So we'll say if neither of them is none, if neither of them is none, then this happens. But if one of them is none, let's see. So if it's not in there, all right. So if it's not in there, then the speech text is, please repeat the custom slot. And the other, and we'll have her check that first. Please repeat the number slot. And we'll keep it open in that case. So should end session will be false. Let's see. Nope. So this is going to be a little bit wonky sort of behavior. I guess we can put this inside this here. There's better ways of organizing this. I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to figure out what it is right now. I'm not going to show it. But basically, if there's a custom slot value, but there's not a number slot value, then she's going to ask to repeat it. Otherwise, we'll get down to here. If the custom slot doesn't have a value, then she'll say repeat the custom slot. So there's probably better ways of organizing this. But here's what we're going to want to do here. We are going to want to now set some session attributes. And this is what I mean by she doesn't remember anything, okay? I don't want to go through the full example, but I'm going to at least outline what you want to do at this point. So you want her to somehow remember the value that she does have, and then get the new value. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is what we would have to do that is create a new intent, which is just some sort of answer intent. It could be a number, it could be a custom value. Have to have some sort of new intent that only, well, no, I guess it could be, you'll have to figure that part out. Okay, there's a lot of different options for how you can get so that when the user says 45 or lamp, then that data somehow has to come in as some sort of slot. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to send out the other slot value. We're going to take a look at the request and response session attributes. Map of key value pairs that persists in the session. Session attributes. Okay, so we want to send out data so that it's going to come back to us next time. No, I don't like that. I think that this is the appropriate. Nope, that's wrong. Session attributes is a different thing we can have, and I'm going to have a dictionary here called SA. Don't think that this belongs anymore. SA will initially be empty, but in here we're going to say SA gets custom slot value, and number is the number slot value. Save that. Okay, so this is going to get sent out with our response in either case, whether or not that one of them is none or not. Okay. So Alexa asks test skill to repeat 45, but no Aquaman. Nope, got a problem. Let's test. Some sort of syntax error, line 21. Speech text gets that if value. Ah, there's a period outside. All right, save that. Test. Still a problem in line 23. Same thing. Okay, no problem with that. Let's try this again. Oops. So it says repeat the custom slot because she knows we got a number slot. So we got a number slot, 45, and look, that got sent out. No, actually it didn't. Session attributes. I must have put it in the wrong place. Let's take a look carefully. Response parameters should be in right next to version and response. So I think that I put it here in the response. No, it should not be there. It should be here. Let's try that again. That's where it's supposed to be. Ask test skill to repeat 45. Custom slot, session attributes, null and null. I thought that she was getting that. So number slot was 45. If number slot was none, but then I guess this bit here happened. All right, we got to think about this more carefully. Oh, okay. All right. So first, maybe what I do, here we go. This is the right logic. Independently, if there is a value, if value is in custom slot, then we're going to take that out. If there's a value in number slot, we're going to take that out. All right, now, if value, if custom slot is none, we're going to please repeat the custom slot. Elif number slot is none. Please repeat the number slot. Make sure this gets saved. This is a lot better, much cleaner. See, just with a little bit of thinking. Else, because I don't think it can get here unless both of them are not none. All right, there we go. All right, so what we want to happen, okay, is take out both those values. We're going to send them out in our session attributes, and if one of them is missing, though, we're going to ask the person to repeat. We've saved our skill. Notice how every time we say Alexa, it starts a new session. Okay, so now we've sent out the session attributes. Number 45 got sent out. It says, please repeat the custom slot. Our session, should not be closed. Should end session. Where is that? I guess we should say end session gets false. So we want the session to still be open. One more time. All right. Should end session false. Number 45. Now finally, if we say, please repeat the custom slot, I guess what we can do here is let's just use the intent we already have set up. Here, let's ask for help. Okay, we're not going to get a good response, right? No help is available. But look here, the session is not new, and so session attributes, this data is repeated. Okay, so it doesn't really matter that, we chose a different intent, but what we could do is have some sort of answer intent, when they're supposed to answer a question, and that we could take in, and then, if the person actually said, what were they supposed to say? Lamp, right? So our custom slot, we could get that in, and we could combine it with the data that's here in attributes. I'm going to let you work this out for yourself. It's a little bit easier in the skill that I'm asking you to do than it would be here, because I think we have got different types here. Yeah, that's not so bad to deal with. I just don't want to take any more of your time. I'm going to let you figure it out for yourself how you would do that, but the point being is that you send the session attributes out. This had a value before, and you get the session attribute back in. That allows your skill to effectively remember within a session what somebody said before, so that you only have to ask for one additional piece of information, and you still have this. And I'll have to let you work out that logic. But as you can see, okay, so fundamental things that we've learned here. Of course, all of the nice things about using CloudWatch for debugging and test for debugging and how to set up the entire skill. But we see that this, again, is you get a request, which is a dictionary, okay? It's just a dictionary with these fields and the meanings of these values, and you need to produce a response that satisfies this down here. And these are all the different things that you can do. These are the required things. And we pieced all this together from scratch. And we've got a pretty nice setup for where we can add some additional logic for our skill at this point. And the rest in between is all regular Python logic. If you're having trouble with dictionaries and, this whole, we're looking at dictionary inside a dictionary thing, maybe practice a little bit with Python dictionaries. Maybe, yeah, you can load this as JSON, right? We saw the JSON module. Load this up in your Python, in Spider, right? We can copy this as a string, or we can save it to a file. We can use the JSON module to load this, okay? And then we'll get a dictionary, and then we can practice accessing different elements of that dictionary. So practice with that if this is a confusing thing. Now the rest of it is just logic though, and you can organize it however you want. We showed a few different ways that you can make your code a little bit cleaner by saving intermediate, variables that you're going to use in different places, and make sure you get the order of things correct. There's a lot of things to think about. It's kind of complicated, but it is quite doable. It's just Python, other than a few things that you need to look up all the time, is the formats. Otherwise, it's just Python. So good luck.